Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 359. I am Peter, and joining me as always is Matt.
Hey, what's up?
Connor's also here.
Yes, again.
Oh, I thought there was going to be more to that sentence. He
No.
kind of abruptly...
Just again.
Yeah,
It's a shock in itself.
Yeah, so Connor decided to show up on a week where he'd have almost nothing to read, because that's how dedicated he is to the whole thing.
Hey, I read all of them.
Very, very good. I'm impressed. Coming up on this week's show, it's a DC Comics podcast, of course, everyone. We are going to be talking about Detective Comics 1072. Matt and Connor read the Power Girls special, issue 1. And then there's the DC Pride 2023 issue 1 to look at. And that is the extent of the books. Although I did also do a Patreon book, because that'd be a full not to this week. American Vampire issue 30. I did. So that's coming up.
I did one as well. I did Noctera, the Vald special.
Technical issues.
Discussions on the show today.
Don't worry, I'll have edited some of that out, Matt.
Assuming he remembers.
I've taken a note. I'll remember. Don't you worry, your pretty little ginger head.
I can't wait to see the comments of how he forgot.
I will not forget. It's like he hasn't realized that by making that challenge, he's ensuring that there's no way I'll forget, because I will not give him the satisfaction.
I believe you.
So yes. So week 5, so dready week 5, we know what that means. We mean it's a weird short list of comics, mostly specials or annuals, although they were kind to delay Detective a week just so we'd have one like real ongoing book to talk about.
One real book.
Yes. So that's nice. But that is the plan. Obviously we have what we always start the show with, which is Matt's favourite segment, of course.
Yep, riveting.
There's always time for a ComiXology top 10. Although I've got a funny feeling that Tuesday's figure will be less than 10. I mean, I'll do the 10 for Tuesday on ComiXology here, but there's definitely some weirder titles that we're not used to seeing. So, any guesses as to what number 1 was as of right now on the ComiXology chart?
I'm going to say tech.
No.
I'm going to go with the Pride special.
It is the Pride special. There you go. Number 2 is the Power Girl special, and number 3 is Detective Comics. So,
What is going on over there?
I get the Pride special selling a little bit. I think people buy those, they usually do anyway. That's why they keep doing them now, let's be honest. Because if people didn't buy it, they wouldn't bother.
Honestly, tech's been a little low in these. Like, it's always been in the 10, but it's been a little lower than you'd expect. It's been under a lot of the other ongoings on its weeks.
Lower than the Power Girl special is definitely lower than expected.
Yeah. So, number 4 here, let me just click on this to get the full title. I don't want to get this wrong. My Room is a Dungeon Rest Stop Volume 6.
That sounds like an isekai.
Yes. Number 5 is Sakurai-san Wants to Be Noticed Volume 4.
More isekai.
What are these titles? Number 6 is Icon and Hardware, issue 3.
Technically a DC book.
It is a DC book. Number 6 is Big Nate, Next Stop, Superstardom.
That's an adaptation of a show my niece watches. I know
I've never heard of it. Good to know. Number 8 is Skeleton Knight in Another World, Volume 10.
More isekai. It's a very popular genre of manga and anime right now, and I hate every single one of them.
That one sounded like a metal album, though.
For those on isekai, it's basically when someone from the real world enters like a different world. Sometimes it's like a fantasy world or a video game.
So what you're saying is it's ripping off Last Action Hero.
Sure, but it's an entire genre, and all of them have those stupid names that are just a sentence.
Yes. Yeah, they all have bad titles. All these ones that I've read are bad.
Every single one, and they're all bad.
Yeah. Number 9 here is FGTV Out of Time.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Number 10 is Love and Rockets. Issue 13, which is a Jaime Hernandez book. So, Weird Tuesday. It's DC. Then there's 3 books, well, 4 technically, and a bunch of manga and your weird, like, the people. See, when you go to the bookstore and there's those people who'll take a book off the shelf and just sit on the floor and read it right next to the shelves. That's what these people are reading. These books, and I don't say that with any malice in my heart. It's just the facts.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep my comment to myself because it was a story that might offend people. So we'll put that in.
Well, Matt at least kicked one of these people in the face.
Not on purpose, but maybe I should have.
Okay, Wednesday's top 10 then, and Marvel actually held a lot of books back for
I really
for the
hope
week.
that. And now I know the obvious book that it usually is at this point. I really hope it's not that, because this was, I believe, the issue.
It was indeed the issue. Amazing Spider-Man is at number 1, with its big shocking death and whatnot, which I won't say who, just in case somehow you don't know, but I suspect you've probably seen it on the internet.
If you've made it this far, congratulations. You're not perpetually online.
Given that Marvel themselves spoiled it before the issue came out, well done you if you made it. But what a
So it's not even
bullshit decision.
It's not even reading on here on League of Comic Geeks in the top.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting.
Number 2 is Doctor Strange. Number 3 is Punisher, which is the final issue of that. That's a 12-issue book. Number 4 is Betsy Braddock, Captain Britain. Number 5 is Avengers Beyond. Number 6 is Captain America, Symbol of Truth. Number 7 is World Tree issue 2. I had to think about that. It's a Tynan's book.
That's the Tynan book that he did in his newsletter.
But it's got numbers in the title, so I had to think about how to say it. Number 8 is Alien issue 2, which I actually didn't realize was out this week. I might have read it if I did, to be honest. Because issue 1 was alright. It wasn't great, but it was alright. It's Declan Shelby and someone's on it.
I'll check it out in another month when it hits.
Yeah, it's not breaking the mold or anything. It's a pretty typical Alien comic, but it's alright.
So just a quick update. The Amazing Spider-Man, I think it was 26 that came out.
Yeah.
11 rows down on League of Comic Geeks. So not even close to the top.
Interesting.
So
is that still sorted as community or most pulled though?
I think so. Let me see. No, that's under most pulled.
Oh damn.
Yeah, so a lot of people dropped it. It seems like on League of Comic Geeks. So.
Interesting.
A lot of the hardcore people have dropped it, but it's Spider-Man. It'll sell no matter what.
Well,
right?
Of course, yeah. It's always curious to see where these pop up compared to Pete's ComiXology list.
Yeah, number 9 is Deadpool issue 7, and number 10 is the Star Trek Annual 2023. So neat.
Is that the Deep Space Nine guy with Captain Kirk? What is going on?
Picard's there as well. It seems to be a big crossover. Or
there he is in the back.
At the very least, it's got a story of each of them anyway.
Right.
So yeah. But there's even more Marvel. They actually had a full week of publishing. They actually had a very light week last week, I think, instead. So yeah, that's what it is. But there you go. It's the ComiXology top 10. I'd love to milk that for a bit more, given that there's not a lot of books this week. But here we are.
That's fine. I'm sure there's lots of books next week, and it'll be. I mean, I don't. I'm just guessing.
There's a reasonable amount next week. The week after that's quiet, and then week 3 is quite busy. And 4's reasonable again. So yeah,
okay.
That is, it is what it is. So there you go. You all right, Matt?
Yeah, I'm not gonna end up like Connor. It's fine.
You hope.
Yeah.
Dear. All right. Well, yes. Yeah, weird 5th week. It is. Well, I mean, it's now June, obviously, but it was the end of May. Things are getting warm now. I actually had to crack open some windows this week, wear some shorts.
Oh man, my windows have been open for about a month. I've been wearing shorts for like 3 weeks.
It's been kind of on and off, but like I was still having to close them at night, whereas this week's the first time I've just left them open like the whole time.
If I leave my windows open, I will melt.
Yeah, but we don't have aircon, so
right.
It's windows or probably more.
You call it
oil.
aircon instead of AC?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone does it.
I've never called it aircon. This is the first time I'm hearing of this.
Okay, everyone in England calls it aircon.
I mean, no, I've never heard anyone in Scotland call it AC either. It just doesn't exist here.
Well,
No, but if you're talking about it in a building, it's aircon.
right.
I would just say air conditioning. I would just say the full thing. I've never heard anyone say aircon.
Yeah, it was weird when we went to go see my friends in
Sounds
Seattle.
like a dyslexic person trying to watch Con Air.
Aircon. Starring Cage Nicholas.
Yes.
But no, we went to go visit friends up in Seattle years ago, and they didn't have any AC. They just had a heater for the winter, and it was wild because the temperatures are, normal.
Yeah, that's weird. You have a fan
don't live
for the
in a
summer
desert.
and heater for the winter.
Mm-hmm.
But
and
did they have
neither of them
DC?
work at either end of the year.
Very good. I made a quality joke there. No one heard. That's okay.
Nope.
We just ignored it. Is the difference.
I didn't actually hear it, so.
I said I asked if they had DC, which
Oh.
was really just a reference to the band, and then I realized, oh, it works for this show too. It's got
does.
layers. It's got there's layers all over the place. So very good. Weird week, but we've had a lot of good number ones recently, so that's nice.
Yeah.
DC Comics is feeling relatively positive right now. There's definitely some middling books, but
It's interesting for me. I'm finding the fringe books being by and large. Obviously, there are exceptions to this, but the fringe books are the most exciting ones. The ones that I look forward to reading. A lot of the mainline bigger character ones are kind of just in a holding pattern right now for me, at least.
I mean, I think that's probably something we generally agree with, in the sense that the stuff that Taylor and Ram V are writing, we're pretty on board with, but it's the it's the Doom Patrols and stuff that are really good right now.
Yeah.
I mean, mainline Batman right now is in a bit of a.
I'm dreading the fact that I'm pretty sure Batman's out next week, and I have
It is.
the entirety of the last arc to read.
Oh baby!
Joke's on you, sucker.
So let me find out what the last issue I read was, because I don't actually know.
Yeah, and that ends with issue 900, Connor, which is extra specially sized. So look forward to that.
Oh, so I've got like a lot of Batman to read, is what you're telling me.
That's what I'm telling you. You got a lot of Batman.
The last issue I read was. My thing's not sorted properly. God damn it.
This pause is longer than I was anticipating.
131. What issue's out next week? Let me have a look.
136.
136. So I have to read 5 issues next week, including the new one. 5 issues of Batman.
Buckle in.
Matt's just got a healthy evil chuckle there at the thought of that.
That was a little bit concerning.
It might read better altogether versus month to month, but it might be even worse. Who
I
knows?
mean, I think getting through it all in one go will probably be a little better, because I think waiting for a chapter and then just being annoyed.
Maybe I should have a drink on hand.
Maybe.
You have 5 issues and you are going to like it.
Anytime that the arc does something that you feel is against what you would like for, say, a character like the Joker, take a drink and see how good
Bro,
they do.
why do you want to get him plastered?
So I'll do that maybe tomorrow night when I haven't got work the next day.
Connor's going to miss the show because of alcohol poisoning over 5 issues.
Yeah, but you're on a cruise for the next 2 weeks, Matt. He has to make the show.
That long?
Yeah, from
We'll
the
see how
hospital
that goes. Yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like I was kind of sad today when I was like, oh, I've only got one real comic to read, and I feel mean saying that, but more on that as we get into these books.
Even more
not
for you,
for like
'cause
a content
you
though.
didn't even
because,
read the Power Girl one, which
Yeah.
I feel feels a bit more like a real comic to us, I think, because we've been reading the backup.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, it's not like we have lack of content though, because the Pride special is very hefty, so there's plenty of stories in there.
It's hefty in pages.
Yes.
That sounds like such a backhand.
I'm not sure it's hefty in content.
Agreed.
And I want to make it clear just before we get into too far, because already I can hear that being taken out of context.
Yep.
I don't hate it. I just want to put that out there right now.
Yeah,
I do
no,
not hate the issue, but it's
It's a typical special.
It's fluffy, right?
Yeah.
It's got some fluff. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I feel bad. I feel bad when these specials come out, and they're always a nice cause. You know, this is the Pride one. Sometimes we get one for Black History Month. Sometimes we get one for the Asian. What was the name of it again?
So it's the AAPI. So I think it's Asian American Pacific. Yeah. Asian American and Pacific Islander. AAPI.
Okay, Asian Month. That's what I'm going to call it.
In your accent, that sounds way worse than you meant it.
What?
Just the way that you. I mean, for me, it sounded when you called it Asian Month. Just with your accent, it sounded a bit harsh.
You're saying
how's it any different than saying Asian Month and in any other accent?
It sounded off.
You're both saying the same thing, and it sounds exactly the same.
No, that's with your British ears. I'm using American ears. We get, we hear things differently.
I'm sorry. What slur does it sound like I'm saying?
I didn't say slur, but if you're thinking it, Pete, we have issues.
I'm not thinking it. You said it sounded.
You implied.
Bad.
I said it sounded harsh when the way that he said it, with his accent, the way his accent goes.
What?
That's all.
He just stopped talking.
I mean, it's not like I had a tone on it. If I said, like, Matt, you're an American. Like, if I said it like that, you may have a point.
I'm really glad you shifted to insulting Matt and didn't try and say Asian Month again.
But of course not.
Then that's out of context. And,
I would never do that.
I was letting him to see what he was going to do. Because me, I definitely would have fallen into that trap.
Yes, you would.
Oh dear.
See, DC, put out more stuff in 5th weeks, or else you get this stuff. All right.
Okay. Well, let's just talk about some comics. I'm sure there'll be semantics along the way. So we have Detective Comics 1072 Ram V with Ivan Reis on the art, and this is the countdown to something happening at this new tower that the Organs have built. They've got this big opening party, and all the Bat family members are in their positions looking into stuff. Nightwing's sort of up top. Cass is looking for the people in the cages that were in the sewers, although they're gone by the time she gets there. The implication being that they've all been turned into
demons, the Asmer.
The Asmer monsters, yeah. And then Batman, of course, is in pursuit, and sort of, it does that thing where the start of the issue teases the fight that's coming, towards the end of the issue. And does that. So this is definitely a more straightforward issue than some of these recent ones, where it is just kind of the action beats. It's the build up to it, which I think makes complete sense at this point in the story. Everything's ramping up.
It's a good issue and it's fun, but it's probably less interesting than some of the previous ones.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I did like there's a portion of the fight where like Batman takes out some of the other the main henchmen, because
I love that page where he drops in and it's like all like kind of greenish, and it's like a 2/3 page spread for him.
But he's come prepared. He's got the weaknesses ready for the werewolf and the other one. Like he's got he's learned enough now in this point in the arc that he's prepared for them, and that's like a plot beat that comes up. But the issue kind of results with him having to make this choice where he's told that he can get to the reality machine. But doing so would take so much time, and there'd be a lot of explosives up on top that'll kill lots of people, probably thousands. Or you can flip this switch that's right next to us, and it'll bring down the tower on top of us. And I'm not sure if this is a surprise to the villain, but of course Batman immediately went, "Yeah, I'll flip that one then.
Yeah.
To hell with my life. I'll save everyone else."
Yes, exactly.
So I got almost like a chuckle out of that, not because it was badly written or because it's funny in and of itself, but I just like the arrogance of this asshole not thinking that Batman would immediately make that choice, unless this is part of this plan.
That's what I was thinking. Like, I don't know if that is arrogance or if it is like, no, this is what he wants. Yeah,
it very well could be. I acknowledge it. I mean, we don't get a lot of follow up from it this issue yet, because it just kind of ends with that.
I mean, it ends with the explosion.
Yeah, with that moment. So. It's all very good. So no, it's good stuff. Interestingly as well, the backup this issue is by Dan Waters, but it's like tying in heavily to some more of this backstory stuff with the Arzans.
I did see Ty Spurrier tweet because people were like, "Hey, why are you not doing it anymore?" He basically said he got too busy doing other stuff, and it was hard to fit into the schedule. And
That's fair.
he's worked with
Not-
Waters before; they're part of the same kind of studio.
Clubhouse.
Yeah, those two, Ram V, and one other, kind of like all the same.
I will
guy.
say this: not that I wasn't enjoying the Cy Spurrier stuff, because I was. This is much more my jam of a backup.
I thought it was better as well. I think it
like-
just felt a little. It felt like it was telling a more complete story in the backup, and I felt like it added something to the character, because it's this story about how young Arzen wouldn't let go of this tree that was dying because his father helped plant it.
Yeah, so they were supposed to, plant it and watch it grow together and then harvest the fruit. And then so he gets obsessed with making sure that it bears the fruit, because, it's a memory of his father. And so him and his, I guess not his, like his bodyguard, right? That's like the guy that's teaching him to fight and all this other stuff. They go through and start aggressively gardening around the tree to make sure there's no issues, and the tree is still wilting and dying. And, it's very much a symbol of his, belief in his father. Very, very good. The mother comes off really bad, which we already knew, right? Because we already got in the back, the back. But watching her son go, basically drive himself mad over this, and then of course the League shows up to, finish the plot.
And the whole time she's just like, "But is he learning to fight?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who cares about this tree? Is he fighting?"
Right. So I'm wondering how that's going to come back up if Bruce is going to be able to rationalize with him being, a child of trauma as well.
Well, I think a lot of this story for me took on this idea that he's willing to kill all these other trees and plants and things around because he thinks they're taking resources away from the tree that he wants to survive. And it's this idea that it's foreshadowing his attitude to things, where he's willing to go scorched earth for the one thing that he believes should be flourishing. That what?
And you would assume he's wrong in obviously morally anyway,
right?
But likely pragmatically as well, as he's just kind of destroyed the ecosystem.
Right.
Yeah.
He's actually made things worse for what he wants.
Right, because they planted it in like the center of the garden, and like the kind of the garden, it created its own ecosystem, and that was the heart of it all. So the fact that he basically destroyed this to keep this alive, it shows how far he's willing to go to get his way.
Yeah,
no, I liked it a whole lot. The art too. Not that there's anything with the Ivan Reis art, but this just had a mood to it.
I think it's a little bit more style. Like Ivan Reis, I've said before, he's really solid. But he's a great house style, like for DC, right? This it's a little bit different. So it's almost inherently more interesting, just because it's not house style, which doesn't always mean better, obviously. But
but it's definitely like it's close enough to what we expect, right? With like the Ra's al Ghul stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's just the
medieval...
extra, like the flat colors, really kind of just make it feel a little bit different.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's an interesting scene in the main story with Montoya and Gordon, just where they kind of he comes to Montoya with this information that there's some danger, and all this is going on, and tries to get Montoya to pour some resources into like helping with all these potential threats. And Montoya's like, "This is a bit of a goose chase, and the only reason why you're coming to me with this is because you've got a reliable source, meaning you're working with Batman again." So they have a bit of a pissing contest about it. Like, she's feeling challenged. She accuses him of, you don't have this job anymore, partly because of this. And Gordon's like, yeah, I made a lot of mistakes. I did a lot of stupid stuff, but I never let anything get in the way. And particularly in this case, he's talking about she's concerned about the optics of what the police are doing. So it's like, oh, we have to have a show of force at policing this big event, all this sort of stuff. But you never let anything like that get in the way of asking the real questions of the things that might actually be leading to something bad. And, it leaves it in this cold moment where clearly it's probably, hit her a little bit. She's probably starting to think maybe she should be looking into it.
Yeah, and with the, leaning heavily on the question of it all, there's a shot with the mask, her question mask in the foreground. So. Yeah. So. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a solid enough issue. Again, I like all the Bat family members. Well, not all of them, but a reasonable amount of them being involved and try to keep things going.
I will say this is one of these things where I saw the cover and I got excited for more shoes and Grundy, And I didn't get any shoes and Grundy.
Yeah.
Not even in the
Very
backup.
misleading.
No. So very, very disappointed because that was a team up I wanted to see. So
It almost feels like they made a whole series of covers and then just slapped them on random issues.
right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh well. There you go. That's Detective Comics 1072. I suppose we'll give her ratings. Matt, what are you giving it?
I'll give this a 7.5.
All right, Connor.
I'll probably give it just a 7. It's still good.
Okay, I thought you were going to have more of a sentence there. I will give it. I'll probably agree with the 7.5. I don't think it's the strongest issue of the arc by any means, but I think it's it's a solid middle chapter building up to what it's doing. Good cliffhanger. Interested to see where it goes next. So good stuff. All right. The Power Girls special issue 1. Leah Williams writing with Marguerite Sauvage on the story. Take it away.
Yes, so it picks up right after the backups. We're dealing with Johnny Sorrow.
Yeah, and he's plunged at least Metropolis into this fugue state, right?
And they're all in this shared delusion, which I kind of love.
Yep.
The first page is this fake advert for Johnny Sorrow's fragrance, and it's called Sorrow because you don't need a face to turn heads.
Yep, very, very smart writing.
That made me laugh. Already, good start. I'm laughing on the first page.
It's been a minute since I've been familiar with Johnny Sorrow, and so until I finish this, because it gets heavy into his kind of past about, in the 40s and stuff. So when I pulled it back up, I forgot he was a silent movie star, and the reason that he becomes Johnny Sorrow is he turned to crime and got stopped by the Sandman and Sandy, right? And that's what leads to him to become a hellspawn, essentially.
That's why he's so tied with the JSA.
Right. And so, but I forgot about the acting part. So seeing this world where, like, you're talking about the fragrance and all of this, like,
it is just
theatrical
one big performance.
Yeah, it's one big performance, and I thought that was hilarious. Until, of course, Paige, or Power Girl, kicks her way out, which I think with what this issue leads to, I feel that it's a real big a real big swing for Leah Williams to have a superpower family or a super family member having like reality punching powers.
Yes, because that has famously never been wrong before.
Yeah, and so I definitely think it takes some massive guts to make that work, and I think Leah Williams does.
And I think it's ballsy to stick with it because to jump ahead a little bit, by the end of the issue, her telepathy is gone.
Yeah, her psychic.
So she doesn't have the psychic link with
Omen.
With Omen anymore. Thank you. But she does still have the astral punch.
Yep.
And it definitely the tease at the end kind of sets up like, no, this is going to be a kind of a main part of her series when that finally starts in like September.
Which I do like because through the course of this, we get that Johnny Sorrow has these 4 horsemen, right?
Yes.
You have a Pit, the Pendulum, the Poet, and the Piper.
Yeah.
They're really, really leaning into the alliteration, right? And each of them are doing something different in the city. So like he dispatches the Pit into Gotham, and it makes it look like it's causing people to be pitted against each other.
Yeah, it's inflaming the passions.
Yeah, right. And then you have the Pendulum, who looks like something out of Silent Hill, right? Like I'm not that familiar with the games.
It's very much like there is no head. It's just a big like crystal spike.
Yeah, or like a tree stump kind of that's been broken off.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so he's gone through the South to cause chaos and frighten people, and then in LA the Poet has gone to entice people, and then the Piper's in Seattle.
To go to LA with that,
right? And then the Piper has gone to to basically awaken the passions and make people dance, kind of Pied Piper.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is part of Sorrow's ploy to keep Power Girl and Omen busy, right?
Yeah.
Because while he's in the astral plane, they can't touch him, right? So
and he can't. I mean, he can't touch them either, but he doesn't really need to most of the time.
No, and so this leads to a challenge for Paige and Omen figure out how to do this. And come to find out that Paige, through her her history of feeling like she doesn't belong, has put up this what they call it, like a wall of feelings.
It did have a specific name. It was just like this metaphorical wall
of awful, right? And so that's when the Lazarus rain hit her, that's what activated her psychic abilities, because they're all behind this wall of awful, right? And this is her barrier, and that's what she eventually breaks through and gives her that astral punch, right? But it is that wall of awful. And over the course of the issue, she has felt like she's never belonged because she's from Earth 2, right? And so even in her history, they give her the birthing matrix origin for Supergirl,
yes.
Right? That was more traditionally with Clark and Man of Steel, where she was, she wasn't quite born yet. They put her as a fetus into this to go off to Earth, and she grows up by herself, right? She gets to Earth 2. She's with Cal. Cal dies. I'm assuming this is Infinite Crisis.
I think it is the Crisis. Yeah, the pre-Crisis
right.
Cal. Yeah.
Right.
So that's Cal L, as in just the capital letter L.
Right. And then, as we know through multiversal shenanigans, Earth 2 also gets destroyed. So she ends up on Earth, and so she never feels, because of this, like growing up in isolation, losing her cousin that was her one tie back to her home and whatever. She's kept every one of the super family in like at arm's length. So she's going around Metropolis, kind of trying to wake them up, like because she has John there at the beginning.
Yeah.
We get this really nice moment with her and Kara where she goes into Kara's apartment, and this is I wish Pete had read, because Streaky shows up, and Streaky protects Kara, which is nice, right?
Yeah. Streaky just starts taking slices.
Yeah, at Paige, and so
she throw him through a wall.
And then it's like, I hope the cat has superpowers, or else I'm gonna feel real guilty, right? And so of course Streaky does, but Kara, where she had passed out, right? She was filling out her journal, and she, Paige starts reading it, and then realizes, well, this is I can't do this. This is a violation of privacy.
Like, Power Girl is a lesser version of me. That's how she. And she's like, nope, diary. I shouldn't. Next panel.
Right.
Whoop, picks it back up.
Keeps reading, but then it's this very nice complimentary where Kara realizes that she puts up this wall, but we have to keep trying to break through to her, because as a member of the super family, it's our job to make her feel welcome. And the fact that she's done so well despite isolating herself from everybody shows how strong, and Kara admires that. And so it awakens this part of Paige that she feels wanted, and she feels like now this is her mission, that she has to take care of Johnny Sorrow and Metropolis, just for the super family, so nothing bad happens to them. Right. So she goes through with this newfound like fire. She goes and starts taking on the Horsemen.
Just lots and lots of astral punches.
Yep. And then
except the one in Gotham, which Catwoman deals with.
Right, Catwoman deals with, which I think was a little bit weird.
Yeah.
But hopefully we get more on that later, because I do like Leah Williams. I'm going to continue with this for sure, right? But I'm hoping that's a mystery for later, because I want to know how, out of all people, Catwoman's the one that was able to deal with this.
Yeah. Reasons was kind of the vibe here.
Yeah. Well, and when she ends up in where she's taking on the pendulum, right? Johnny Sorrow starts popping back up, and he touches her, right? She stops.
Whoa! Where does he touch her?
Well,
no. So, because he was incorporeal before, like it was just they were going through, like phased through each other. Right? If Pete had paid any attention to the rest of this conversation, that would have been fine.
Right.
No, I was just.
Well, it was the context as well.
I was getting images of Charlie with the doll. Where did he touch you?
So she goes to punch him, right, and he blocks it. So now Power Girl realizes, hey, we can tussle. So they start fighting. He starts trying to seduce her. They end up doing this like old movie. It looks like Gone with the Wind on the cover, right? And this is where it's kind of getting into his 40s origin. And then he starts to take his true form, which is that Lovecraftian tentacle beast, right? And Power Girl it, what it says.
She's
I'm
having
getting
none of it.
caught up. Well, she's having none of it, but it's basically she's baiting him just long enough for Omen to do what Omen needs to do psychically, because of course Johnny Sorrow starts monologuing about all of the stuff that he's done, and Omen kicks Johnny Sorrow out of Power Girl's head, which is where we realize that's where they've been fighting, right?
But in doing so, this is what removes her psychic powers.
Right?
It kind of the little piece of the astral plane that was kind of in there that was giving her the powers to begin with, kind of got shoved out along with Johnny Sorrow.
Right. And so she retreats. She goes back. It seems like because Johnny Sorrow, was telling her that you can save everybody. You just have to come back to Earth too. But she realizes he's already tried this before. He's just playing from a different script, but it was Stargirl last time.
Yep, it's the exact same thing as before.
Right. So she goes back to her house, right, and it is just littered with pizza boxes, which I very much appreciate. And then she starts punching this mirror because she doesn't know what to do, and Kal-El shows up to her, which I don't mind Sauvage's art. Like, I'm not in the Pete camp where where I wouldn't say you think it's bad, right, Pete? It's not for you.
Try to picture it.
It as you call it,
the fairy tale one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably lean towards it's not my taste, but I do hate it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I up to this point, I think the art's been really, really competent. There's been a lot of good layouts, and the action sequences are good. And then when Kal-El shows up, the older Superman, he's got the gray temples, right? He looks very sinister, and I don't know if that was the intent. I think it's meant to be welcoming, but he looks creepy as hell.
Yeah, I think it's just so Sauvage occasionally has a couple of like plasticky faces.
Yeah,
is kind of the effect. And I don't think she's very good at drawing older men, because I think it's supposed to be like, just age wrinkles,
right?
And it just doesn't really come off amazingly.
But yeah, but when he shows up and he's just standing there, I'm like, oh man, this is Sorrow again. He's playing tricks, and that's not at all what it ends up being, right? This is Kara, right? This is Kara Paige's own. She's processing the loss of her cousin, right? And this is what leads to her punching through the wall of awful, which leads to the astral punching aspect of her powers now. Because he basically shows up and says, like, I'm sorry for everything you've been through, but you're stronger than all of this. And this is the part that really spoke to me, right? Where Power Girl throughout this is talking about what love is and what is the opposite of love. And she says it's not
Baby,
hate,
don't hurt me. Baby, don't hurt me no more.
Right? Is that hate is like love's hardened edge, right? You put up there, and it's something that you can attack with, and and it can hurt people. And so she realized that the opposite of love is grief, and that she's been dealing with a lot of grief and not really dealing with it. She's not dealing with it at all. And so this is what's led up to this wall of awful. And so she has to get through that grief and the loss of her cousin, the loss of Earth 2, to be who she needs to be. And this is where we get her origin and, kind of the birthing matrix type thing. And again, Kal-El looking super creepy with the age lines. But I think the rest of the art here, like her parents don't look as scary, right? Connor, would you agree?
Yeah, they look okay, but they're only in one panel, right? I guess, yeah.
Yeah. So, but, so she says that, she realizing now that to freeze or falter in the shadow of love is the only way to fail their sacrifice. So she's like, well, I gotta be me. I gotta stop putting people at a distance. I gotta start, living the life that I need to live. And that's where she wakes up and she starts coming out and just taking out these horsemen for good. And this is where we get the page with Catwoman, right? Yeah. So her and Omen team up. Sorrow's in a old movie theater where he's, playing one of his old movies. And he's thinking that Power Girl's come to join him, right? Because he's going to give her that sense of belonging. And she just punches the hell out of him. The super family wakes up. Superman shows up. Turns out he was dealing with a
He was off Earth.
spaceship.
Yeah. That's why he wasn't in. He wasn't
in all of this.
in the heads with everyone else, but he was also nowhere to be found to help.
Right, and so Clark shows up and says how proud of her she is for handling all of this when everyone else is out of commission, and that you are a member of the family.
And then Kara gives a streaky.
Yep, because she needs a friend, and so they go back and Kara Power Girl Paige henceforth decides to punch a hole in the astral reality, and it looks like she's going on adventures now. So
yeah, I'm really intrigued to see, because that seems to be the setup for the series that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Is she's off doing something through these punches.
Right, and I do hope we see some members of the super family. Like I want to see some stuff with her and Supergirl. Right now that we've had that, Kara really admires her, and she has Streaky, and but just the fact now that it's even when she had psychic powers, it differentiated her from the rest of the super family and Supergirl herself. This, as silly as it sounds, the astral punching or reality punching, whatever it is, seems silly, but I think it really makes her stand out because she isn't from this earth, right?
No, it makes her just something a little bit different, because I think that's the whole point of this backup and this one, special so far has been just to kind of differentiate her from Kara, basically.
Right.
Including all right, we're reestablishing her backstory. It's completely different.
Right.
Kind of giving her a new, fresh name to make her feel different.
Right.
Keeping her at a distance, but still okay. By the end, she's kind of part of the family, but still at a distance compared to
normal. And so she, it's one of those ones where she's not like because I wouldn't even say she's like the black sheep, like the Jason Todd of the family. She's just going to be the one that's out reality hopping, And I also felt like this is. And I don't know if this is because Leah Williams came from writing at Marvel and stuff. It kind of reminds me of what America Chavez's powers are. Right?
I can see that, yeah.
Right? And it might just be the star, kind of, because she's punching through reality. It's got a lot of points.
Yeah.
But I, as someone that loves multiversal stuff and other Earths, I think this is more than fitting for Power Girl or Paige. Because she doesn't have a last name yet. Is she Paige Star? Like she was Karen Star?
I don't know, actually.
We don't know. So... But it's definitely added a fondness to her. I put her in that Jesse Quick territory of, extended family members that, I have this weird affection for. So
it'll be interesting to see again, folks. Obviously, I believe it's a different artist.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see how much Sauvage is what bring into the series and how much is Williams, because I think a lot of it is this very strong visual style that Sauvage has. So definitely be interested to see how that goes.
Yep.
Go ahead. Get Tom King on the art.
They definitely won't look like lifeless dolls. That's for sure.
Get Tom King on the art and profit.
Yes. Step one and step two. But so quick ratings, Connor. Just this main part.
I'm gonna look at 8. I think it's really solid.
I'll go 8.5. It's made me a fan of Leah Williams. I'm going to check out everything she does going forward now, and especially Power Girl. So
yeah, definitely on board to check out the next book.
So, and then the backup, it's the Fire and Ice story. Starting here, it's Joanne Starr on the script and Nacha Bustos on the art. This is Fire and Ice going to handle a tidal wave in Baltimore, and so it's really heavy on dialogue between the two, and I'd say the art style fits the Justice League International vibes of it. It's very clean, a lot of fine lines. But as they're in Baltimore, Fire mentions Ice. Isn't this Guy's hometown? And Ice like, yeah, but don't mind that. And Ice pulls out something out of her boot and presses it. And as they're dealing with this tidal wave, right, Fire's trying to use her powers to steam it away. Ice is building up ice walls. Guy Gardner shows up, and Fire takes exception to this because we're back to writing Guy as a total jerk. And of course, Fire has issues with her best friend's ex. He starts doing the chauvinist thing of like, oh, let me show you girls how this is done. So he makes a giant vacuum construct to start sucking up the water, which of course doesn't make things better, and it makes things more difficult. So it causes Ice to overexert herself. She passes out. Fire gets pissed at Guy, and then they end up arguing the whole time. Guy sends a dragon construct after Fire. They keep fighting. Ice is trying to get them under control. She ends up putting them in like 2 separate ice bubbles to separate them. And they're finally, when the adult in the room shows up, Superman flies in to find out what's been going on. Fire automatically blames Guy, but then, Superman is like, hey, guys, we're all on the same side here. I get it. Guy can be tough to deal with, but like, you guys got to put your egos aside when it comes to saving people, because we're here for them, not for each other. And that's where Fire sees that the thing that Ice pulled out of her boot was her old Justice League communicator, and it essentially let Guy know that they were in town, which then leads to them to get into an argument where Superman's like, hey, you guys need to take a break. I know the exact place that'll be good to get away and get your heads back on. And it cuts to them driving in a car, entering into Smallville. So it's just basically the setup for the Fire and Ice series that's coming out, which is that the backup to the Power Girl, or was that just in this? Because I can't remember.
What was in the backup?
The Fire and Ice, right? Is that going to be its own book?
I think it's its own book.
Okay.
I
So I
think.
couldn't remember if that was just more of a backup in the Power Girl thing, if they were going to partner these things up, or what.
No, I think
But-
it's so many series.
Okay. I mean, it's very good. As a Guy fan, it kind of still, Guy is a jerk. Well, this is what we're leaning back into, and that's fine if that's what the continuity is going to be going forward. It's a tough pill to swallow, but one I could take nonetheless. But the art style is very good. I think this is the same team that's going to be going on into the main. But yeah, very entertaining. A lot of dynamics that are going on between Fire and Ice. So if that keeps up, and we'll see their shenanigans in Smallville. But yeah, I'll give this a 7.5.
Okay. All right. So DC Pride Special issue 1. I'll just be straight up. I did not finish this.
Okay.
I didn't read all the stories. There was a few I just kind of
How am I
bounced off.
the only one that ever reads everything?
Because like some of the stories I got through, I was like, yeah, I'm not feeling this one.
I read like the first 3, I think, and I didn't like any of them. I was just miserable. I didn't want to read anymore. I looked ahead at the next couple and was like, these don't look appealing to me at all. Honestly, it's this thing where, it's what I was saying earlier. I feel bad like dissing on what this is, but these specials are always these collection of stories that feel like backups from like other books, just kind of thrown together, and I never get a lot out of them individually. Even the big headline one, which is Grant Morrison, I feel like, and maybe it's because I've not read Multiversity, but I was just kind of lost.
I have read Multiversity, and this is still just a lot of. I like Grant Morrison when he's still grounded. This was not that grounded, all right. And for me, I have to know where Earth 36 is and what Earth 36 is meant to represent. And essentially, it's from Big Bang Comics, where instead of Green Lantern, they have a character called Flashlight. And instead of the Flash, it's the Red Racer. And so everything else is basically the same. In his Action Comics run that introduced President Superman, this is one of the planets that Super Doomsday or Super Doom killed the Superman. So Omni-Man in that book was killed. Seems to be fine here, right? Which, as we know from multiverse stuff. But yeah, this was very dense and very much the Morrison I don't enjoy reading. It was very heavy on some of the science fiction-y tropes that just didn't work for me because I didn't have familiarity.
Yeah, I
with any
didn't
of this
really
stuff.
know any of these characters. I mean, obviously I got that one of them was a Green Lantern style character, and that he's upset that his partner, who is a Flash style character, is dead. And at the end of the story, obviously finds him and brings him back. But beyond that, I couldn't tell you a goddamn thing that happened in
part of
this.
the problem is you could replace this with Alan Scott,
Yeah.
like almost beat for beat, and I think it would be more familiar at the very least, more recognizable to more
Yeah.
fans, and would be a lot easier to just follow along with and get invested in.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's fair.
But I do like, because it does show that, so the Hal Jordan character's name is what is it, Hank Hallmark, right? And he really does go to the ends of the galaxy to bring his love back. So it's a very nice story in that you see him as time goes onward. He starts to get the gray parallax as temples, right? And it kind of teases that he might have given up a piece of himself to make this happen, but it just turns out that he's just aging, because this is how long this feat is taking.
Yeah.
So, but again, there was some nice stuff in there, but it definitely gets into the Morrison sci-fi tropes that are too far for me. The art looked pretty decent though, right? It's very, very stylized in points. Like when we get to and then here's more of this, Octadedrus Prime. Everything's in like gray and white and
Yeah, it has a real
washed
60s
out
sci-fi vibe to it.
yeah.
That's
Without any
definitely what it's
without any of the Kirby-esque charm, right? Because like the fourth world stuff can get real wacky, right? You start bringing
Yes.
in the forever people, who are just space hippies and stuff. But yeah, this for me didn't have much of that charm. But again, as a story about love reaching to the ends of the galaxy, I think it worked. But yeah, I wouldn't want to read more of it though. So
Yeah, it ends with to be continued, implying there is going to be more of it.
Yeah.
In
I
some
have no
form.
idea where.
no,
I don't think anything's been announced that is obvious where it'll be.
No idea.
Yeah.
But apparently it's planned. So there's that. After this one, we got a. Where is it
when
here?
Baby makes 3, it's Harley, Crush, and Poison Ivy.
That's the
Yes,
one.
this is Leah Williams, who me and Matt just enjoyed the Power Girl
Yes.
stuff from, and I enjoyed this one too.
Okay, I was gonna say I didn't hate this one. I don't care for Crush much. I know it's Lopo's daughter, but
Yeah, this is very much falls in the fluff side, like I said
Yes.
earlier, of this book. But it was
also-
enjoyable.
It also felt like this is part of the Harley TV, Harley cartoon type vibe, because that's the type of Harley I was reading.
I can
with
see it.
Ivy?
I think, fortunately for us, that seems to be the model of Harley that they want going forward, because it's a very popular take on Harley, and I don't think it's not that unfamiliar to most people.
No.
I think it's only very slightly tweaked from what we had before, the previous decade or so in the comics,
Yeah.
anyway.
But just her whole vibe, I feel like Leah Williams does get Harley's voice down fairly well.
Yeah.
Ivy's to me a little bit off, but I can nitpick. But yeah, so Crush washes up on this island. I think it's what the island time forgot, Dinosaur Island, right?
Yeah, it was dinosaurs.
And she comes across Harley and Ivy having a vacation. And Crush talks about how she wants to get back to her girlfriend, and she got there because her spaceship entered the wrong atmospheric window, and she ended up overshooting her trajectory and then swam to shore. Didn't think she'd find anybody, so Harley and Ivy were like, oh hey, well, we're on vacation, we'll help you as long as we can. And they go to get their jet that they took there, and it's missing. So they're gonna just have to stay on the island, and they do Gilligan's Island type shenanigans, right? Harley wants to go write SOS in the sand. She ends up writing. Which is this a meme thing, Connor? The UWU.
Yeah, it's like it's not a meme thing. It's more just cutesy e-girl.
Okay, gotcha. So instead of writing SOS, is that, and then Harley ends up giving Crush a rock with a smiley face on it.
Yeah.
As like a gift, and they're riding dinosaurs. And Harley and Ivy are like truly happy. And then they realize that as Crush is like, well, I'm never gonna get to see my girlfriend again. This is terrible. Harley admits that she hid the jet and disabled the alarm features, so her and Ivy could actually get a vacation and not have to rush through everything. So they go and drop Crush off at her girlfriend's, who then make it look like they had kidnapped her, and that as part of the deal they're going to drop her here to stay out of their hair, and they get a happy ending. They embrace, and that's the end of the story. I also like the art style in this. I think it fit the whimsical, like Connor was saying. It was
it's great for a little Harley Ivy story.
Yeah, and I think it the colors too really pop with that kind of they're
really
kind of
flat
pastel.
colors, but really bold pastels. Like saying, yeah, lots of pinks everywhere.
And so and Harley and Ivy, both those colors seem to complement each other, right?
Yeah.
So very very fun read.
Yeah, the art wasn't for me.
No.
I'll just.
Usually it's not for me either, but there was just the tone of the story. It matched, so it worked out for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'd want to read a 6-issue mini of that, but for a backup, for this one off, that was fine.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the Tim Drake story with Connor Hawke, which this had a bit more meat to it, and that it was kind of them sharing their experiences of coming out and sort of like finally talking about it, because this is the first time they've really interacted since Tim's come out. So I felt like there was actually some more interesting personal experiences being filtered through the characters from the creators. Yeah. So it had a bit more weight to it. I still didn't really think there was much to it overall, though, because it is ultimately just them having a conversation.
Yeah,
but we did find out Batman has a Letterboxd account.
Yeah.
That took me out of it. Like, and I'm someone who uses Letterboxd. This is one of these things where you're referencing something too specific, where I'm just like, this feels a bit weird. I don't know. Now I'm thinking about Batman logging into Letterboxd and clicking his movie ratings.
Is it any weirder than them having Twitter though? Really?
I mean, but I think Batman shouldn't have Twitter though.
Yeah, Batman should also not have Twitter.
Yeah, but Bruce Wayne has a Twitter account.
Bruce Wayne has a Twitter account. Yeah, he's got some staff for that.
Right.
No, see, I'm okay with this because, like you say, he has staff for the public PR Twitter account because he has to, right? Mm-hmm. But I think the letterbox is that's just for him. It's not something that everyone knows about.
I'm sorry. When does Batman have time to watch movies, given how busy he is? With justice and crime and all that stuff.
Asleep. That's when I watch most of mine.
So relatable.
Bloody hell.
But I do like the idea also that it seemed like Damian set them up so they could, take on these Scarecrow goons. But it's almost like Damian kind of knew that they needed to talk with one another, which I don't know if like up to this point, like Connor Hawke had really known Tim Drake, because they seem to run in different circles. So I thought that was a little bit weird, because it's not like Connor Hawke was a Titan.
I mean, again, I'm not familiar with a lot of the past history, but the way he's, the way Connor Hawke's talking is like, hey, no, you were there for me at the time.
Right.
So I'm like, they must have had a reasonably tight relationship at the time.
That's what I thought as well, just from context. It sounded like, they were either in a team together or something, but nothing I knew about. But I assumed this was like, early, mid-2000s stuff that I just hadn't read.
Yeah, same.
So. But no, like it was fine. Connor being afraid to tell his dad, not afraid, but like just because it's Oliver Queen and what he represents, and the fact that
it's kind of weird though, because obviously people think as Oliver Queen as the liberal bleeding heart of the
well, and the fact too that I guess he's asexual.
Yes.
So I feel like Ollie would open arm acceptance that, you know what I mean? So
I'm sure he would. I think the way Hawks are describing it here is more like, hey, it's the so opposite of Green Arrow womanizer, right? That he can't possibly relate.
I like to think that Ollie's like, oh good, he's not going to be like me, because
probably
too many partners
screw up.
Too many partners screwing things up, right? That's like Oliver Queen's up until Dinah, right? Every relationship has come back to haunt him majorly. Yeah. So but no, it was I like the spirit of it. And then when Damian shows up at the end being like, oh, took you guys long enough, I thought I was gonna have to go out there and rescue you, just him being a little shit. But
it was the next story that made me tap out.
Bro, I have no idea what happened in this one.
Still Force, like I'm assuming this is someone from the Flash run from Williamson, because it talks about Still Force. No,
in Lazarus, in one of the Lazarus books, remember he does the
no.
So they do the they're out in like the middle of New Mexico, and they do the story of the Flash meeting the turtle. You don't remember any of this?
No.
No.
Okay. So yeah, there was in one of the Lazarus Planet one shots, there was this whole story, and this kid ends up with still force powers.
Yeah, is it just me, or does it feel like this book? Oh, I mean, obviously Tim and Connor are relatively big, and so are Harley and Ivy. But I feel like some of them were going for more niche choices for what characters they were using.
Part of that is this
Also
is
inclusivity.
Like the fourth or fifth year of them doing this now. They've kind of hit some of the more major ones. Part of it is a lot of the truly major characters don't really fit in the Pride book, right? Because they are.
But you could theoretically, you could tell a story of one of those characters, like I would say from the last Doom Patrol, when they're talking about Guy and how he wouldn't, accept the Starro kid.
I think that murkies things up when you start telling stories about straight characters and how they perceive.
Well, but I'm just saying you could put them in here though too, those bigger characters. But the fact that they're choosing to go with these newer ones too, I think that's also a smart choice.
Yeah, but I'm not I'm not saying. I mean, it's weird that you go to Guy. I'm not complaining because Batman and Superman aren't here. I'm saying it's weird that there's not I don't know, like a Montoya story, or there's not.
I think this falls back to we've had those in the last couple of years.
Yeah, but we get Still Force chick. I mean, who is this?
No, I don't like this story either. I don't have any idea
I'm glad because I finished reading this last night and I was like, what did I just read? Like, Jess Chambers shows up, which is cool. That's a Flash that I recognize.
I think this is their first appearance outside of the Future State stuff, right? Because they were the Future State Flash.
I believe so.
Even that I barely remembered. I'm like, okay, I recognize this character. I know I've seen them somewhere, but I couldn't have told you where I saw this Flash.
But yeah, no, this Stealth Force, though, is it Circuit Breaker? I remember, I could have sworn you read that story, Pete. Because I remember talking about it with you.
I don't remember this at all.
But yeah, this was kind of murky just with the story, because I feel like they're doing stuff on multiple timelines. Because I feel like some of it is taking place in the future where Circuit Breaker is established as a hero on this other Earth. And then all of it is Circuit Breaker learning who they are and dealing with Jess Chambers, who kind of opens up their eyes to what it means to be, this type of hero, this new type, where you don't have to pick, they talk about non-binary, and not just in the sense of orientation, but in sense of, you don't have to pick one or the other. You can just be who you want to be. So in essence, I like what the story, it just takes way too long to get there, and there's a lot of stuff on here that I'm just, again, trying to figure out when this is taking place.
This was the story where I started off reading it, and then after about 4 pages, I realized I was just skimming the pages because I just didn't want to read all the bubbles anymore.
Skimming this one, yeah.
So, so you didn't make it to the Midnighter and Apollo one?
Nope. I read that one.
Yeah. I enjoyed this one because it's very much the spirit of Midnighter that I enjoy.
I don't really like the art for this one.
No, the art was definitely a take back.
It's so different to everything else in the book as well.
It's kind of that painted style. I don't know who to compare it to.
It's kind of like, okay, how do I say this without it sounding really harsh? It's, I don't want to say, I don't want to use the word shit because it's not shit.
Yeah.
No, I want to be clear. It's not shit, but it's like knock off Alex Ross.
Kind of like
okay.
We have Alex Ross at home.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm on record as I don't really enjoy Alex Ross's interior art very much.
Right.
So to then go, okay, it's someone else kind of doing the same sort of style.
Right. And so this story though is Apollo and Midnighter basically showing up to show support for the for the community, for the Pride.
They're a Pride rally.
Yeah, and so you got Midnighter staring down, counter protesters, and they're being hateful. And Apollo has to remind him, like, hey, like, look, you can have a hard edge, and that's good, but you also have to remember, like, we're supposed to be setting examples for other people, and and Midnighter calls Apollo soft a little bit, and he's like, well, no, but like, we have to be better. And then Green Lantern shows up, Alan Scott, and is basically, I've been doing this for long enough, but it's been because of, younger heroes like Apollo and Midnighter and Tim Drake and John that allowed him to come out at a later age, and he thanks them for that. And then so it ends with Apollo and Midnighter having another marriage ceremony just to really piss off the people that it's going to piss off.
And they hack all the things, right? Because I
yeah, oh, that's right.
They hack the TVs,
yeah, so
everywhere.
Yeah, so they're forcing people to see them live happy lives, But yeah, I like the spirit of this story. I wish the art was better because I do like seeing Midnighter and Apollo, have to, because they are the Wildstorm, Superman, and Batman analogs.
Yes.
So to see how they respond to these type of people that hate that they exist, it is very Superman and Batman. Where
they're probably like the highest profile characters in this book, I would say, other than the Harley Ivy stuff.
Yeah.
And they're probably the two longest running in this book that I can think of, like gay characters, right? Because they've been around and gay for a long time at this point.
Early 2000s, right? That's
I think so.
When the Authority was.
Which compared to a lot of these characters are people who were created 2 or 3 months ago in comparison.
Right. Because I'd say Constantine, too, right? Because
that's true. Yeah, he's been gay since the 80s.
Yeah, and then you've got like Batwoman, who's like the 2000s, like that, sort of that middle kind of era.
Batwoman doesn't really have her own story here. She shows up in someone else's
Spirit World,
yeah,
which was very murky because I didn't know. So in this, it's Xanthi, being this person of two worlds, and they go to the cemetery because that's where they feel at home, and someone's attacking the Kane mausoleum, and they hint here like we know who they are. I felt lost for a hot second. Did you read this one, Connor?
I did, yes. Well, I skimmed. It basically boiled down to Xanthi flirts with Batwoman.
With Kate, yeah. Has some cool breakdowns in that J.H. Williams kind of style that reminded me of the early Batwoman stuff.
In terms of its panel layouts, I definitely agree with that. Not in terms of the actual art style.
No. But the breakdowns and the panels and stuff. But so they're talking about like Kate's there. And it's all the Kanes are buried there, and these people that were trying to break in, she says it's a feuding family that's been around as long as the Waynes, with this band of idiots. So I'm like, well, who are these people that are trying to attack the Kane mausoleum? So it's not like they know that Kate is Batwoman, right? So it left some of that, but
maybe it's not really the Kane mausoleum. He's just taking credit for it.
Maybe. See what you did there.
That was a quality joke. Come on.
That was. But I was like, Pete didn't read this, so that's not what it is. And then I realized what you were doing. But yeah, so Kate tells Xanthi about, I wish I could talk to my mom, and that talks about this necklace that she had. It was this, locket with an engraved tree on it. So Xanthi makes this tree out of the origami because we've seen how they do that, and it reaches in the spirit world, and Xanthi hands Kate the locket, and
leaves this tree in the middle of the mausoleum.
In the mausoleum, which is real nice. Still wish who those guys were, but as far as the spirit world, I like Xanthi as a character.
Me too.
So, and as someone that's not a big fan of the art in that book, like it's fine, it's just not for me. This art was much more my jam.
Oh, I like the art in the main book quite a lot.
Yeah.
So,
the last sad about this Steelworks story with Nubia, I have no idea.
I looked at the art and noped out immediately.
So we can just skip. Nubia is trying out essentially a danger room, and I don't understand the point of this. It really felt like they were just,
Also, I don't think I realized Nubia was, gay or whatever. Like, what is she? I don't know.
I don't know.
I have no idea. I don't think I've actually really read anything with Nubia yet outside of those very first few backups I think she was in.
Yeah.
I don't think I've actually read anything on that.
Yeah, she comes here as Queen of the Amazon with Io, who's I think her partner. And they're trying out Natasha's, essentially it's a danger room thing. And there's just a whole bunch of here where Natasha's up in her head because the Queen of the Amazon's here. And I don't get what the point of the story was eventually at the end. So, yeah.
Yeah, can't help you on that one. Sorry.
I'm surprised Pete didn't read the Catman Ghostmaker story. That ends with them.
The Ghostmaker story?
I saw Ghostmaker at the bottom of the first page and was like, nope, I'm good.
Yeah, there's very few characters that just get instant go away heat from me. But
because I was like, oh, Catman, interesting, and then it was Ghostmaker. Like,
which
never mind.
I didn't realize Catman was a member of this community. So that was a surprise for me.
I didn't know he was either, but it's also not surprising.
Yeah, no. But again, I'd rather just had a Catman story than Ghostmaker showing up. And then them fighting off these, what were they, like mercenaries?
Wait, is Ghostmaker part of the community as well?
Yes.
Yeah, Ghostmaker is famously bi.
Famously.
Famously, Pete.
No,
famously.
Famously.
This was like a big, well, at least on Twitter, it was a big to do that Ghostmaker was.
Was this the original Batman book, or did this come about in the Batman Inc. stuff?
I think it was originally in the because we see him in the Batman backup. So it was in the backups, I think, that Tynan wrote.
Wait, was that the backups I didn't read?
Probably. So if you don't remember, because I remember, because he's crawling out of bed with a guy and a girl. And,
I vaguely remember that now.
Yeah. And so here
see, this comes back to my rant about which characters were being picked before. Right. Is that like he was in a threesome in one scene, and that's all. That is the. I mean, I'm sure there's more to it. I'm sure in Batman Inc. or something that has been elaborated on. But
I think it has, and they kind of played into it with Bruce in the Night, right? Because there was that whole seduction aspect. What was that issue? Was that issue 5? Where he had to get the information out of him?
Yeah, that sounds right.
And I think they're leaning into that. But I remember Tynan has confirmed that Ghostmaker is asexual. So here, him and Ghostmaker and Catman end up fighting off these mercenaries, and then they go to blow off steam with one another, and lay tangled in bed. So I was like, okay, this is something now, I guess. They bring back Catman, but now I'm gonna not have to read them because they're gonna put him with Ghostmaker, maybe. That's kind of sad.
That's a double-edged sword if ever there was one.
Honestly, this special is just this weird combination to me of some of the characters I just don't like that much. It's all backup style fluff stories for the most part.
Every single one of these anthologies always backup style fluff.
Well, the hope is that there's going to be one genuinely good story, right? And some of the anniversary issues that the characters get tend to have a couple of good stories because they put a lot of big names on the creatives for those. But a lot of these ones end up feeling a little bit lackluster.
Do you know what I'm going to say is the difference between... I don't think it's that there's strong creatives on those anniversary specials, because I think there are strong creatives on this as well. Mm-hmm. I think the difference is when you're focusing on one character for those anniversary issues, you inherently want a variety of styles of story about that character in that one issue. You don't want a lot of the same type of story, because otherwise it's just like, okay, it's a bit boring. So they the editor side of it spice it up. I want you to do this type of story. You come pitch me this type of thing. Mm-hmm. Whereas I think when it comes to the more generic ones that aren't focused on a single character, where they're a bit wider, like this one, for example, or any of the other ones that are basically not just one character. This isn't even just like the ones that are like promoting a cause. But I'm thinking even the ones that are like the Halloween ones that you get, like the horror ones every year, or the Valentine's ones that they do. It's always the same problem where every single creator comes in and goes, I'll do a cutesy little story on this theme with these characters, and they all end up feeling more or less the same, as opposed to having that variety because they're forced to, because they're all on the same character. You can't have 10 of the same story, the same type of story in one book if it's all about Superman. But if you've got one Superman story and one Batman story and one Wonder Woman story, and so on, they can kind of all be variations on the same.
That's a good point, and I just, I read a few of them, and then I got to that Still Force character, and I'm like, okay, I think I'm just done.
That was easily the roughest one, just because of all it was doing. But yeah, well, it's a shame that you didn't get to read this John one, because this one might be my favorite in the
This
Oh,
one's quite
in
good.
the
I
book.
thought we were done. There's another one. Okay.
Yeah, no,
One more, yeah.
it's John Kent and Constantine, and it starts in rural Vermont. And it says between the House of Mystery and the House of Secrets, and John's fighting this like undead creature, which is called a fetch, which I had never heard of, so I looked it up, and apparently it's an undead creature of Irish folklore, right?
Yes.
And so it's got Constantine and Felix Faust. They've made a bet that if John can win, if John can beat Constantine's fetch that he's conjured, there's going to be, because they don't hint at it until the end, but they have some kind of deal. And so of course Constantine bet against John Kent, and this fetch is just, it's this big, like, how would you describe it, Connor? It's like
It's kind of like think Doomsday cross with Swamp Thing.
Yeah. So it's this big, tall monster with long limbs and like a skull head, right? And so they're going back and forth, and Felix Faust is like, I can't believe you bet against Superman. Like, who are you, right? And John comes down and is like, you need to call off your magic monster. And Constantine's like, no, this is about something else, so you need to keep going. So they end up getting into the fight, and John keeps coming down to confront Constantine, gets being pulled back in by the fetch before finally it overpowers him, and John has to quit, right? So Faust ends up losing. He gets pissed. He operates off, got in a puff of gold smoke, and you learn that Constantine had John throw the fight, because what they were fighting over, or what they had the bet over, was the soul of one of Constantine's friends, whose name was Oliver, and that he wanted to get him out of hell. And so, of course, Superman would agree to take, to throw a fight if it meant saving, a person that didn't belong in hell.
I love this has like everything for both characters. Like John, like I don't really like throwing fights, but it's a good cause.
Right.
And it's John Constantine doing his kind of technically is like there is something good deep in him. That's why he does tend to fall on the hero side.
Right.
But even doing this, he still has to cheat his way through everything. It's always a long con.
Mm-hmm. Of course. And he goes, you really think your old man would have thrown a fight against one of my silly monsters? And he goes, for Oliver, probably you probably just have to ask him, right? And then at the end, as Constantine's walking away and John's going the other way, as he knocks the head off of this thing with ease, right? Constantine's like, yeah, I can't wait to tell everybody that my fetch kicked his ass.
Yeah.
So yeah, this could have been just a backup in John's
Just
book.
thrown in Superman,
Literally anything. And it was, this is Christopher Cantwell with Skylar Patridge on art.
Yeah,
and,
like I said, Cantwell, I've been really enjoying the stuff he's been doing Marvel over the last couple of years.
So
I hope we see more from him at DC coming up.
This, Constantine's one of those characters too that I've gone through phases with where I get annoyed because sometimes, like, in the wrong hands, it's a character I don't like. Here though, through this lens of John, him getting John to throw the fight for a good cause.
I think that's the key to Constantine is when he has a purpose beyond just doing
shady stuff,
power, money, or whatever like that.
Right.
It's when he has something good at the root thing that he wants to achieve, and he does it in some pretty usually kind of scummy ways, and he maybe sacrifices some people along the way.
Right.
And that's when he can be unlikable.
Well,
but
yeah, and I feel like John Kent has a better understanding of who Constantine is, right? Because he has a little bit more of a cynical worldview than his dad does, right? So here, when he's just like, you would have had to just ask my dad. He knows that Constantine would never ask Clark to throw a fight, right?
Yeah.
That's why he came here. But I feel like John has, not that he has more in common, but I think he can see Constantine's schemes a little bit better because he's not as starry-eyed about stuff as his dad is.
Yeah, definitely.
So this is a combination that I really enjoy seeing together. So, yeah.
Yeah, this was kind of a fun little story. I wasn't expecting.
Me neither. I got to the end. I was like,
not a pairing that you'd expect.
No, I got to the end. I was like, oh, Constantine. And then I saw John. I was like, all right. And then I ended up like, this is one of the better things I've read this whole week, not just in this, not just in this special. So.
And then there's a 3-page preview for the Dreamer graphic novel, which I didn't bother reading because it was a 3-page preview.
Can you guys who've read Doom Patrol, can you explain to me this this Doom Patrol Block Party piece of art in here?
Oh, this Rachel Pollack stuff.
No, not that. But there's right before that, right? There's one of the.
I see it. They're on Danny the Street.
Right, but whose head is that in the tray?
It's a good question.
Yeah, and who's the lady here? Is this one of
which lady?
The one across the table from the one girl. So in the foreground.
On the left.
Yes.
I don't know this one either. Do you?
Yeah.
I'm not looking at it, so.
It's got Robot Man. It's got Robot Man dancing with somebody, and you got Negative Man, Negative Woman in the back with, they have Danny the Street. He's got an ice cream truck there, just having Danny shakes. It's a fun little image, but I was like, I don't know, why is that man's head in a tray? I mean, he could just.
I'm assuming that looks like it's like a tray of ice, right?
Right, but it looks like the Chief, right?
It does look like the Chief, but I don't remember him being headless. But
me neither. Yeah, and then the lady kind of looks like Witchblade a little bit. So I'm like, is this one of Crazy Jane's people? Like, I'm not sure.
If you told me it was, I'd believe it.
Yeah. So that was just it.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I didn't really look at the pinups very much. I very rarely do in these. I'm just gonna flick past them and get to the next story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Well, we don't usually rate these, do we? Because it's kind of
It wouldn't be really be fair. I only read like half of them.
Yeah. It's kind of a weird instance. Anyway, so that takes out some Patreon books. Then every month on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, you can make myself a corner read a book. And since I was relatively quiet during that, I will kick us off with American Vampire issue 30, which we had the cliffhanger last time of the vampires coming for Henry and the VM's hospital. Hattie's behind the whole thing. Skinner turned on everyone, as he always does. And this is a very action-focused issue with them racing back. Cal's came and helped Pearl, so she's not been killed like they thought she was going to, and they're racing to the hospital to save Henry. It's really quite that simple. There's some good stuff, like the art right away is like them speeding in the car down the road. There's a lot of speed lines and them panicking as they try to get through traffic. The whole thing with Hattie, she wants to actually turn Henry into a vampire because she wants to basically make him her slave like all of her other vampires that she sired is, because she thinks that'll be the best way to like sort of like bastardize Pearl's like relationship with him. It's like, oh, now her husband's going to be mine. And Skinner actually sort of steps in and stops her, which leads to them fighting together. And it's almost like, is this actually doing a little thing here where Skinner's actually is he doing, because it kind of feels like even though he's turned on everyone and he was out for himself like he always is, it kind of feels like he's stepping in here because he knows Pearl wouldn't want this. And there's because Hattie even sort of accuses him of being in love with her and that he's doing stuff for her, and he denies it, of course, but like it kind of feels like, yeah, on some level he does care about her. He's felt kind of off ever since they had sex. Like he's been conflicted because he knows he's going to be turning on her. So yeah, we get a big fight scene. There's a lot of the extra nails sticking out, the teeth. When Pearl does show up, Hattie says, your part was cut already. There's a lot of like a movie making puns and like fibbage. And to that Pearl says, yeah, I wrote myself back in, bitch. Which I thought was a good line. So we get them fighting. A lot of the art turns very orange and red, almost like things are getting like not bloodier and that there's like blood's like spreading, but like it's just slowly tinting red, kind of thing, ramping up the tension. But yeah, so yeah, a lot of this is the big fight scenes, and just as Hattie's maybe about to kill Pearl with a gold dagger, Henry is actually up and shoots it out of her hand, but it's his last act. He says, "Hey you," Pearl smiles at him, and then he collapses, and the end of this issue, the big thing in here is that he dies. This is the end of his time. and Pearl rushedly goes to cut her own wrist to try and sire him and try and pour blood in his mouth to save him and make him a vampire, as Cal finishes off the rest of the vampires. But it doesn't work. She's too late. There's a great full page spread of her like just weeping, holding him in her arms, all that stuff. And the end of the issue is Pearl leaving for good. She's saying goodbye to Cal. She's leaving the state of California, and Cal's got a note that Henry wrote for her just before he died, and he's basically saying, "I'm glad we decided together to not turn me," which has got a lot of a bitter tinge to it because she was trying to. You know, if she'd gotten her way right at the very end, she would have went against his wishes and turned him. It was just too late to actually achieve it. So that obviously adds a little bit of the drama to it and the sadness that she's feeling. But he's basically like, hey, I never want. I'm too tired. I never wanted to live forever. Like, your story is much bigger than just me. My part in your story is done, and it's time for you to move on. So it's all very sad. It's all very melancholy, the end of this issue. And it does feel like the end of a big chapter because this entire story, the first arc, was them meeting. And he references that. He references asking her to coffee in 1925. So it really does feel like a big... Like, this could have been the end of the whole book in some ways. Like, if you said the end of Pearl and Henry's story was the end of the book, you know, at the very least, the last time we ever see Pearl, because that's the end of that character story, I could have believed you. I don't think it is. I'm sure we see Pearl again later on, but it would have worked as some kind of an ending. But yeah, I mean, that's the basic gist of it. The art is pretty great here. I think the art really gets to sing because so much of it's action focused. You know, it has the speeding back to get to him at the start of the issue. It has all the vampires fighting in the middle. And then at the ending, it gets to change gears completely into this sad melancholy. You know, when she's standing in the car, or next to the car, I should say, and Cal comes in, and it's the garage doors kind of like halfway up. So it's very moody and shadowy, and it's really playing with kind of this, like, she's in darkness. It's all very good stuff, as you would expect. Albuquerque obviously has been consistently on fire when it comes to this book. We know Skinner's out there somewhere. He cut his tracker out, or his like implant out. In fact, it's even implied that Pearl might have done it for him. That because he says that in order to do this, he would need like a lot of blood, and it would have to be blood that's like his. And Pearl's kind of the only one around that really does have blood that's like his. So it's very interesting. And you know, in those final moments of the fight, like, I don't know how much she's aware of what Skinner did to betray everyone, but she definitely saw him fighting alongside her in the big fight. He was definitely fighting the other vampires, so on some level, maybe she felt she owed him, whatever it is. But he's out there somewhere, as Skinner tends to be. But a really good issue. It's probably a solid 8.5. I don't think it quite reaches the heights of some of the book's best issues, but it does feel like a big closing chapter for the book. You know, and this is, what, 30 issues, you know, not counting the spin-off miniseries, and it feels like the closing of the first big act of American Vampire. So yeah, curious to see what's coming next. But there you go. That'll about do it. Connor read Noctera, the Val special. So take it away.
Yeah, which is fine. It's basically a showpiece to have Francis Manapul on art for a guest issue.
Let's go.
Which I'm never mad at, because Manapul does be good. That said, I suspect it's skippable if you decided to not pick this up between the two arcs, because this is set after issue 11 but before 12. And I could be wrong, but it feels somewhat inconsequential. Basically follows Val. So at the end of the last issue, she stayed behind to fire the base, and everyone thought she was dead. But she's not. She got turned into, like, you know, the black suit, like Bill. So looks very sinister now. And the issue is basically just some of Val's motivations that we kind of been going on. Why she's a ferryman. There's a lot of stuff relating to Charon, the Greek myth stuff. How he was kind of an asshole. Like, hey, it's all well and good if you paid, but if not, tough shit, sit in the dark for 100 years. And the idea of, okay, well, maybe in these times they need to be a little bit better than that. Maybe there has to be some greater cause of doing it for the right reasons, along with getting paid, but not just for getting paid. And it's kind of like the Val's mentor, Reis, person that they looked up to, and he was this runner of a convoy as well, ferrying people in need between the two places with the lights. And it ultimately turns out he was kind of a shitbag as well. Before the big PM, he was not long out of prison, and implied that he probably wouldn't have been too long till he was back in prison. In all reality, he probably would have slipped up again. But in this new world, he ended up kind of being better. And Val kind of wears his helmet and kind of in memory of him. And it's like, that's her hero. And yeah, like I say, it's very much an inconsequential issue. It's just Val just kind of get around, get a little bit of motivation. We're just kind of a little bit of action, some gunfights, some van lorry chases. All of it looks gorgeous because Manipul. I enjoyed all of it, but there's not a lot of meat to it. But I am looking forward to the next arc. Kind of where we're heading towards Eos. We really want to see what goes on with that now. But yeah, it's a solid 7 out of 10. But it is very, very skippable. I suspect it's included in one of the trades. Depending on how long the third arc is, because I think the second arc was only 5 issues, so it's probably thrown in with the second trade. But I would likely put it in with the third trade if that's also only 5 issues long. Just because I think having this as a lead-in before the next arc, I think probably works better than it being an epilogue to the last arc. Just in terms of where that ended, I think that's where you'd want to end that trade. I think that this kind of fits better as a kind of a slower pace lead-in, which is, I think, more or less how it's lined up with how they published it. I think it kind of published straight from that into the next arc, and they had the break before this. But yeah, no, it's a solid issue. It's a fun enough read. I'm really looking forward to getting back to the main book and the actual issues.
Okay, well, there you go. And thus kind of gets us to the part where we're supposed to pick our favorite stuff of the week, but it's kind of a weird week where ranking the books is a bit odd because.
Pete, you want to rate your one book?
Yeah.
You want to rank it?
It's number 1, shockingly.
They deserve to be number 1.
We can still talk about covers and moments and stuff, though, right? Like,
we can. I mean, if you have like a favorite moment of the week you want to talk about.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely a Power Girl punching, reality, right, and breaking through her wall of awful. That was a real good moment. So that's pretty good.
Yeah. Mine would be from Power Girl. It's just that sorrow fragrance advert on the first page, because you don't need a face to turn heads. It's great.
Pretty great.
I guess mine.
Was there anything in tech that really stood out?
Not really, but it's probably just the ending of tech, I guess.
Yeah.
I hate week 5s, man. They suck. All right. Yeah, you could do cover of the week, I suppose. Matt, you got a cover?
Yeah, there's a Jen Bartel, Harley and Ivy cover.
But which one are you going with? The
just the regular, not the
purple one.
Not the purple one. And then also there's a Chula Mote Power Girl cover. Those two would be a tough pick, but I'll go with Bartel because we don't get to pick her very often.
I'm going with a Sebastian Famura cover of Detective Comics, which is a really cool painted looking cover of Batman taking his head off to reveal an actual bat head, and it looks
Nice.
Yeah,
cool.
it kind of goes in with that whole dark opera vibe.
Yeah. Plus,
that
he's got
Andy was talking
the
about.
blue cowl and cape, which is nice to see as well. It's actually a really big bat logo on his chest, which I didn't really notice until now. But whatever, it doesn't really take my my thinking of it down any. You got one, Connor?
Yeah, I think every single Power Girl cover is great. I don't think there's a bad one amongst them. But I'm going with the Jen Bartel Pride cover as well. I'm going with the purple one. I really like the purple one.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in that case, I'll just take us out to tell you what's coming next week from DC Comics. Thankfully, more than this week. So we have Batman 136. Shit. Hopefully it'll be better. It's New York, maybe things will be up. But yeah, Batman 136. We got the Flash issue 800. So
Which is a weird one because I think it finishes off the current run, but also has stuff coming up as well.
That's not that weird. That's what they did with Action 1000, Tech 1000.
Yeah, it's just a little bit weird when I'm not reading the current run. I'm like, okay, I've got to read like half. Like how important is the other half of it?
I don't know. But as someone who is reading the current run and wants to try the new run, it is A-okay for me. Then we got Dark Knights of Steel issue 11. We have Poison Ivy issue 13. Shazam issue 2. Adventures of Superman John Kent issue 4. The Joker, The Man Who Stopped Laughing issue 9. Peacemaker Tries Hard issue 2. Steelworks issue 1. The Joker Uncovered issue 1. And Scooby-Doo Where Are You 122.
What is the Joker Uncovered?
It's just covers.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's that same that they did with the Batman Uncovered. So it's who's the artist on this one? These are the Bermejo ones.
Did they? Because I know with the Bermejo one before, with the Batman one, it was like turned into a story, right?
Yeah,
Are they doing the same here?
I believe so. Wait, no.
Yeah.
It says, art can come from many places. Most great art's about truly despicable people. In that spirit, yeah, no, it doesn't seem like they're doing a story.
This just seems to be a collection of the covers as opposed to making them into a story.
Yeah.
Which is a lot less interesting.
There's a user review on Leah Comic Geeks that says, another cheap money grab by the folks at DC. Be sure to buy all 3 covers for a book that is literally just reused covers. So it's funny.
I mean, they're not wrong.
No,
It's $6 as well.
but it's Joker, so Joker will sell.
Is it like a special size or something?
Well, there's 40 covers in there, I think it said.
Okay, well, there you go. So yeah, there's a reasonable amount of books next week, so we'll have plenty to talk about. Connor will be here next week.
Yes, and I have to read 5 goddamn issues of Batman.
And Matt will
You
not
don't have to. You could just jump into this one.
and
No, I
Matt
can't.
Matt will not be here next week because he's on a cruise the next 2 weeks. So
Mhm.
you'll be getting 2 Peter Connor episodes before all 3 of us are together again after that. So prep yourself accordingly. But this has been episode 359 of Comics from the Multiverse. You can let us know what you think of the comics in the comments. You can like, subscribe, all that usual stuff. You can support the show by going to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and supporting us over there. But that is pretty much it. It's a week 5. It's a week 5. The vibes of a week 5 are just, they're you know?
Yeah.
The vibes of a week 5. That kind of rhymed. I did not mean that, but yeah. So hopefully we helped with your obvious depression because it's week 5 and you get no reasonable amount of comics to read. But unless you read Marvel, obviously, because Marvel had a bunch this week. But if you read any other publisher, then week 5 kind of sucks. So thank you for joining us. We always appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics. And remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.